Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are talking with the gentleman that many of you get information from probably every day. All the social media outlets from Poker News is run by this gentleman. Jesse Fullen is our guest today, who is the head of social media and has also been hosting the final tables for all the WSOP.com bracelet events, and will start doing that during the month of August for GG Poker. Jesse, let's talk a little bit about these events that are going on. By the way, anybody who follows Poker News, or you don't necessarily have to follow them, but it tells you when they're going to come on. But go to Twitch. And then go to Poker News and you can see these live streams, and they are live. There isn't some of these other YouTube pages or social media pages, they're 10-minute delay or so. These are actually live. Their cards are down, so it's different. The GG Poker may have a delay, about a half an hour delay, because cards would be up. So obviously we don't want that to compromise anything. But for WSOP, they are live. The reason why I'm saying that is that the other day I was playing in one of the turbo events. You guys came on earlier than the final table. You guys came on actually on the bubble. It popped up, and I was actually curious while we were there. So I linked on, and you guys were saying, hey, if anyone's still in, let us know. And I let you guys know I was still in and that kind of stuff. But talk a little bit about that. It's a very unusual schedule, obviously. So for people who have not had the opportunity to go to New Jersey or Nevada to play, the event started at an unusual time. You would think they would start earlier in the day, but they're trying to, I believe, get the working people to be able to play at night. So West Coast, 3 p.m. start time.
Correct.
East Coast, 6 p.m. start time. And with there being usually, I think it's 2 hours and 45 minutes of late reg. Right. So therefore you can catch the people potentially who are working late or working normal times on the West Coast, and obviously East Coast, you can get people as late as 8:45. So being that is the case, the final table doesn't usually show up on the West Coast till around 11, 12 o'clock, sometimes even 1 o'clock. Right. Fast forward 3 hours, you got not fast forward, but add on 3 hours for the East Coast. We're talking anywhere from 2 to 4 o'clock for East Coast just to make the final table. So your schedule, obviously, during this month must be just crazy. Your sleep schedule is just completely thrown off, right?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I've had some fun jobs in my past. I used to work at Starbucks and open at like 5 a.m. So I've worked crazy normal in poker. I mean, God, what I've learned about poker is most poker players, most poker professionals kind of, but outside, sometimes they sleep until 12. So it all just depends. But yeah, no, this has been typically 4 to 6 hours a night, and I'll try to take a midday nap if possible, if my kids will let me, so I can be energized for the late night broadcast without having to rely on coffee and Red Bull to kill me from getting more sleep after.
Right.
But sometimes you just go with what you got to go with, and I definitely have a few Red Bulls in the fridge ready to go for that.
Yeah.
That 11 p.m. start time.
I am a night owl by kind of trade. So if I was on the West Coast, it really wouldn't be a problem for me. I'm going to bed by 1 o'clock is a rarity in general.
Sure.
But if I was on the East Coast, which I am normally, I mean, good Lord, 2, 3 o'clock just to start. Forget it finishing. It would definitely be, a challenge. The times you're kind of falling. So I remember way back the WSOP circuit, they did the live streams of all the final tables for 1 year, and they asked me to be the host. So I would travel with the circuit for the final tables. I'd come in on that Sunday and do the final table, and we'd play it out. Most of them were over decent time, but a couple of them, because the fields were so large, I mean, literally falling asleep at 3 a.m, trying to stay awake as we're doing the commentary. Because sometimes live poker, especially if they're sitting there waiting, there's no shot clock, right? There's no beep, beep, beep of the online.
Right.
I mean, you're sitting there like, oh God, could you please do something here? You're killing me. And I remember one of the places, I think actually closed at like 6 o'clock in the morning for a couple hours. It was the I think it was a dog track down in Florida. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
at 5 or 6 o'clock, you had to close. And so we was like 4:30 and we were like getting there. I'm like, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do if they're still like 2 or 3 handed? And I ended up finishing up. So it wasn't a big deal. But
That's hilarious.
there was a stress for like, producers in the background being like, well, what are we going to do? We can't come back. Like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And, they're like telling me in my ear, like, hey, just so you know, this is the scenario. There's nothing for you to do. There's nothing for you to announce. But just FYI, we're trying to figure this out. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep commentating here and going
That's
through.
hilarious. Good Lord.
So it's pretty funny. And all these events, no matter where you were or whatever it was and all that stuff. So tell me, as you get to that final table, how do you kind of get through it? Because for me, when I was at the final table doing the commentary for the WSOP, it's pretty easy, right? It's Jesse Fullen, it's Bernard Lee, it's Kevin Mathers, it's Jeff Platt. Like, these are the people who are at the final table. Jump on Hendon Mob, jump on WSOP.com. Here's their bracelets, here are their rings, here are their caches. Oh, they don't have any caches. Oh, but they're from Spokane, Washington, from Council Bluffs, Iowa, from Boston, Massachusetts, wherever they are. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Online, you still can. Pocket Fives has a lot of them as well, but sometimes not as easy. You don't know their names, etc. When you jump on, I assume no one's literally handing you a sheet. You're just flying by the seat of your pants, right? Like,
there's no call sheet. There's no script given to me. No, what I do, Bernard, is Poker News. We've been covering these online WSOP events for at least 2+ years now,
right.
And we've developed a little internal database,
right,
based on the caches that have been released with their names and pulling the online. So we've built a little thing that I have access to where I can, when I jump in, usually around 3 or 4 tables, I'll start watching so I can see if there's any good Cinderella stories that I can cover.
Right.
And that's when I'll start looking up all the names I don't already have tagged, and I just put, just like you would when you're playing poker. Or at least you should if you don't already. I right click on the player's name and I put a little note in. I'll tag them with a gold tag if they've got a bracelet. I'll tag them with a blue tag if they've got a circuit ring. I won't go crazy into other, because it's WSOP. I want to really focus on the WSOP experience. But then I'll put names for anybody else. Like last night was hilarious. We had Jason Kuhn in our table, and I didn't have him tagged with anything, which felt so inappropriate. I'm like, this is you guys, this is like, this is like royalty. Jason Kuhn's at the table.
Right.
He has no circuit rings, no bracelets, so he's tagged just like, Sally from Dallas, Texas. Like, it's just the same. But that's something I do every day. And then our broadcast is a little different too. I'm not David Tuchman. I'm not, I'm not you. I'm not someone with a resume of poker stuff besides these silly. Like, if you look at my Hendon Mob page, my biggest win is that they published a photo of me dressed as Batman. At a poker table. Yeah, I'm like, that's like, there's never going to be anything worth more than that in my Hendon Mob.
That's funny.
So I always try to explain to people, like, compare this to Super Bowl Sunday. Your friend invited you over to their house. Your team didn't make it, but instead you've got this fun game with great food and great friends, and you want to catch up. And oh my goodness, there's an amazing last second touchdown. We're going to cheer. We're going to celebrate. We're going to watch the replay, and we're going to enjoy it together. So I always tell people, expect it to not be your traditional analysis, like, it's more like a hangout. We're going to watch it. We're going to have fun. I have fun guests on. Sometimes they're amazing analysis type guys with, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes, like last night, I had Lynn from Hello, It's Lynn, a new YouTuber, and she was just there to have fun and hang out and tell fun stories, and it was a lot of fun for me. Right. So yeah, that's how I prepare, and that's what I always tell people to expect, and it's been great so far. We've got a great audience who sometimes tune in every single night, and they get it. People come in sometimes like, "What is this? I don't like this." I'm like, I'm also very honest. I'm like, listen, I apologize. I know what you're expecting, but hopefully you can get there with us and enjoy it. If not, hopefully, you'll find what you're looking for. Right.
Well, I've watched a few of them, and you're very honest a lot of times. You're like, guys, I'm not a top level poker player, and so if you don't like my analysis or you don't like what I'm saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to bring you the coverage because it's, this is what they're doing. And like I said, I think some of the guests, some of the people who have just jumped on and not seen you do it before, they're sometimes expecting, for whoever, the Nick Schulmans of the world or whoever, who are
Yeah.
just fantastic at what they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you bring a levity to the coverage that's very fun. You know, that's why I enjoy watching them. And I will also ask you a question, because you have watched so many of these.
Sure.
Do you feel like it's actually helped your game because you get to watch some of the moves and you know, as I say to a lot of people that I've taught and some private students and seminars and all that, the best time to learn when you're at the table is when you're not in a hand,
Right.
because you have no risk, right? You two guys are going heads up. You take a side per se, and not that the side that you want to win. I just mean like you take a hand and then you kind of guess what the other person has based off of the betting patterns, et cetera. And then my prayer always is that they flip over their hands to be like, I was right, or oh
No
boy, I was
joke.
completely off. But it really helps you understand. But again, no risk, right? It's not like you had to make a big, you know, pot-sized bet on the river and call it and then be wrong and lose a 30-year stack. Now you can just be like, I think he's bluffing, I call, and the person flips over the nuts. And you're like, oops.
Oops.
Like now you just go, oh well, like I didn't have any money on the line. So do you feel like as you're watching some of these plays, and it doesn't have to be the Dean Eggs, the Daniel Negreanos, the David Peters who won the $7,000 event for the high roller event. It doesn't have to be that. It could be anybody, right? It could be anybody who wins an event. Do you feel like you've improved your game or learned a few things along the way?
Without a doubt, absolutely, Bernard. Yeah, no, I think when you're in that moment, you just have to take what you can get, and that's what it's the one thing I've definitely watched a lot of. I prior to this, I remember in my last few days at Run It Up, I was trained to run a software called Poker GFX. Are you familiar with Poker GFX?
No.
So this is the software that people run on these live poker broadcasts on Twitch or on YouTube, etc. When you see like a poker room and they've got like really like almost ESPN style graphics that show the cards,
Yeah.
that's the software. And what I was taught how to run it, and it was great. I sat with headphones in this back room, back of house, and I was watching pros like Ryan LaPlante, Ryan Lang, Berkey, and the Sulfur Y guys. And I would get their cards on one screen, and I'd have to make sure it connected right, and I'd be able just to watch them play, knowing what their cards were before anyone else did, because we wouldn't turn them over until the hand was over.
Right.
And so I got to watch that and got to pick up some things. Then last year, actually, before I came on full time at Poker News, I won a bankroll. Right when quarantine started, I won a bankroll from ACR with poker training, with buy-ins, all sorts of stuff, and for the first time ever, I really got to give a lot of focus to my poker. I got weekly coaching from Ryan LaPlante, and I learned what Learn Pro Poker and Cale Cleaton's software, Range Trainer Pro, and that also helped me a lot. But yeah, so I definitely don't come in where I was 2 or 3 years ago, but at the same time, like I still, every time anyone asks me like, who are you? I'm like, listen, if you had a mole on your arm, you wouldn't go to the mailman and say, what is this? Is this really bad? Do I need to check it out? No, that's I'm the mailman. Don't, I'm here. I'm standing right in front of your door, but I'm not the one to ask about that. So yeah, but I definitely say I've learned a lot. I've for instance, this past week, Ryan Lang won his second bracelet, and one thing I noticed about his play is that he's just funny. He's a funny guy in person, but you would watch his bet sizing, and he'd bet 100,000 and won. 100,000 and whatever, he'd pick out funny numbers and he'd put those in, and you can just tell this guy's not just clicking buttons. He's having a good time, and he's at the same time, he's definitely, I mean, he won the bracelet. He definitely was making strategic moves, but he was also enjoying it. And I think that was something I was very excited to highlight. Like, hey, let's all capture this. This guy's at this main stage, the lights on him, and he can still relax, have a beer. And we found out later that he was actually celebrating his wife's birthday at Red Rock, and he was sitting on an iPad at the bar while his wife was next to him having a cocktail, and he won his bracelet out having drinks.
That's great.
Next night, David Williams did basically the same thing. He came in, he didn't win, but he made the final table, and I think he finished in second place.
Yeah, I think he was runner-up. Yeah,
third. Yeah, same thing. He was out for drinks at Resorts World and posted the whole thing on Twitter with like he was hanging out with Mizrachi and yeah. So it's fun, but it's also, you can also tell that sometimes that's what's happening too. Like, okay, these players are
Well, and also because like in normal tournaments, you can't make it 111,001. Like, you just can't do that, right? You have certain
No.
denominations. So does
Yep.
it really matter if they're betting 110,000 or 115,000? It doesn't really matter, right? So you can have
Yep.
some fun with that kind of stuff online, whereas you can't do that necessarily live, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So it is definitely an interesting time when you see all these kind of interesting bets. And obviously you see there's no color ups and all that kind of stuff. So people have these unusual number of chips all the time online. What are some of the good, memorable moments from this year? Last year, there were so many memorable moments with regards to these videos, and we were able to fortunately have a lot of them on my show. So if you haven't heard some of these interviews, for you listeners, definitely go back to the archives. Card Player Lifestyle has them written up. Also on iTunes, you can hear like Ryan DePaulo, who basically won his bracelet in a Whole Foods parking lot. You had all these great stories of people jumping up and down, winning bracelets. I'm blanking on his last name, Ron, who won a WSOP bracelet last year. First time he ever went out there. I think it was Ron McMillan.
Oh yeah, Roman Millen. I remember from the hotel,
Right.
and yeah, oh, that was
Yeah, and
great.
he's
That was
jumping up and
amazing.
down. That was a great story. We're fortunate to have him on the show as well. So Ethan Yao, obviously Rampage Poker, who's really taken that moment and really taken off with it on YouTube. It really kind of catapulted him into that kind of Brad Owen kind of level,
Yeah,
of
poker
vloggers.
vlogger. Yeah, for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean that's really what he is now. Johnny Vibes, who we just had on the show as well. All these guys are doing these incredible vlogs, and now poker, Rampage Poker is now one of them. I mean, it's just pretty incredible. Andrew Nemi, obviously another person that's obviously Daniel does it as well, but
Yep.
just
Yep.
crazy stories from last year. What about this year? Any interesting stories?
Yeah, no, for at least on my end, I've had a lot of fun with these. One night, we had two people in chat who were in chat with us for the final table. So just so you understand the way our whole process flows, Jeff Platt runs a feature table broadcast starting at 8:30 Pacific. Our goal was always, because we partnered with him, and he and I worked together to prepare a schedule and pick what events and everything, and we wanted to hit it right around the money bubble. And so the night that you saw me go on, it was his night off. That's why I ran it
That's how
from
you
there
run
to
it.
the
Okay.
final table. But
And it was a short one. It was the turbo, so it was the perfect one to do, right?
Oh, absolutely right. But besides those, like we've had 7 nights on the schedule where Jeff isn't doing every other one out of 32 tables. Jeff does the 8:30 show until the final table, and then he tosses his well-built audience to me at twitch.tv/poker news, and we run it to the end. So one night we in chat were two people who were saying that's me. That's me. I'm this
awesome.
player's name. I'm this player's name. And those two people somehow went from 9-handed to the final 2. We still had them both.
No.
And chat, oh yeah, and chat was loving it. And so it was. Let me pull up the names just to make sure I get these right. It was June Kim, who came in second place, to Carlos Welsh. Carlos is well known, amongst at least like the Nevada poker community. He's he's a crusher. He's written articles for Poker News for well over a decade.
Yeah.
So he's maybe a little less known, but he won his first bracelet. But he also has a crazy story where 4 nights a week, I think, he stays at the Rio or another hotel, and then the other 3 nights he stays in. Drum roll, he stays in a Toyota Prius. He sleeps in his car for 3 nights.
Wow.
And he's trying to live a lifestyle where he's not spending as much, he's not using as much resources, and it's just his personality. It's his guiding line, I guess. And it was so interesting to hear from him and talk about it, because he got his bracelet. He did an opening from his Prius. He was real. He won $124,000. And he did stay at a hotel the next night when it was a weekend. He usually doesn't on the weekends because the rooms are so expensive. But he went out to Prim. He drove away out to Prim for like a $40 hotel room. He's like, yeah, I'll stay in a bed, but Yeah, that was his celebration after winning over
So
100
what does he
grand.
do? He basically does during the week when the rooms are relatively cheap, if not free or comped, and then on the weekends he'll stay in his car.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's got his car all rigged up to run power and run a laptop, and he's got like a ring light so he can do like broadcasts and stuff from too. He does some Twitch streaming. So Carlos has been a lot of fun to get to know. He's been running deep in multiple events this summer since his bracelet, and he's in chat almost every night. So that's been a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Landon Tice, someone very new to poker
Yep.
and very young, he came in second place in the $1,000 North American Open on July 18th. God, that brought in all the Solve for Why guys like Matt Berkey and all their crew into chat too. So that was a lot of fun. I think we peaked at like nearly 1,000 viewers that night because everyone wanted to
Right.
watch Landon.
Yep.
Either they wanted to watch him and root him on, or they wanted to, just say some inappropriate things in chat. But it was fun anyways. It was a lot of fun. And then let's see. Last night, D. Peters. Oh, we had Negreanu make a fourth place finish one night, which is a lot of fun. Another crazy thing that happened throughout all this was one day, Chad Holloway and I were invited over to Phil Hellmuth's suite at Aria.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do some fun giveaways for our channel to try to engage with people and say, hey, I know it's late, but if you'll stay with me all night long, I will reward you with something fun.
Right.
That's not just right. So I've been going to the Gamblers General Store or Spinetti's for retro Binions or retro WSOP things I can purchase, and then I'll give those away. That day I went to the Aria with maybe like 10 or 15 things in my backpack, hoping that he'd sign one thing. Actually, I still have it right here. I was hoping he'd sign a deck of 2018 Copag cards. You can't see it because of my green screen. But I was hoping he'd sign that because it was the year he won his last bracelet. And he's like, I'll sign everything if you want me to. And my jaw just dropped. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah. That's
so I had, he's amazing. So I had vintage Binions matchbooks from the 60s he signed. I had vintage Binions postcards. I had some card protectors. I pulled some cards out of the deck and had him sign those too. And we just took off. And I've been having these giveaways every night, or almost every night, as I'm running out of Helmuth merchandise. But it's just been a lot of fun, really, Bernard. It's just been a lot of fun for everybody.
Yeah, well, I think that, everyone following along, it's fun just to kind of, for people who aren't able to get out there, to kind of live vicariously through the live streams and just kind of watch them, and everyone wanting the world of poker, obviously, to get back to some sort of normalcy. And we're preparing for the Rio for that one last time, as it looks like this will be the last year it'll be held at the Rio. First time was the first year I went was in 2005, and so it'll be sad to see it go. And you hope that the COVID cases will continue to be under control, as unfortunately the cases are starting to rise. So it is interesting. You're in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I've lived in Vegas now for 7 years.
So how is it been? I actually went to Reno because wanted to hang out. One of my friends lives in Sacramento, so we hung out in between some event. There were some PLO events which I don't play, so I went over and hung out with him, played some golf. So it was easier for me because you could be anywhere in Nevada, right? It didn't really matter, right? And so obviously go to Vegas all the time, and I actually love Lake Tahoe. I think it's a really beautiful place. I like going to their circuit event as well. So I won my last ring there. So it was kind of one of those. I was hoping that karma would kind of come together. Unfortunately, it didn't. But tell me a little bit about how it's been. I know that the report recently is that all employees now in Vegas casinos have to wear masks, vaccinated or not. And I know the cases are rising. So it's a little bit of a concern for some people, obviously, because it's around the corner, people. Like the World Series live, we are having this interview at the end of July. We're talking 2 months away, and the World Series will be live at the Rio in plan. So what has kind of been going on right now? Because the cases have been rising in Nevada, specifically Las Vegas has been marked as one of those, unfortunately, hotspots.
Right. Honestly, it's been Vegas was hit so hard by COVID. I mean, for the strip to be shut down, for wood panels to be put over the doors, it was so heartbreaking to see. And so for Vegas to make the resurgence it has, it's been it's been well received and it's been needed. It's been very needed. So for COVID to make another loop back now with this this string that's taken over,
Right.
we know that Vegas can't shut down again. It can't. It won't. It more than likely wouldn't survive because so many people lost their jobs, and with the amount of people, I mean, it was hard to get through. We made it through, and now it's like we just can't get through it again. So it feels like what Vegas is doing is saying, don't expect the strip to shut down. Don't expect the casinos to close or the hotels unless like the highest officials demand it. Unless from on high they say you have to. I don't think that they will choose to ever again. So now it's like, what can we do to protect ourselves? And that is the first step. And it's not just casinos. I mean, because poker is such a niche audience, a niche market. There's big conventions,
Right.
that are coming too. Like there's it's crazy. You never know, but the Concrete convention in Vegas is bigger than the World Series of Poker. It's
Yeah.
insane how Concrete can be so big in Vegas, but all the cranes, all the companies, and like that's coming soon too. That's like one of the first conventions. You got what's it called, the tech conference in January is right around the corner too. So Vegas has to prepare, and that's what they're doing. Is my wife works, and not in the casino industry, but in retail, and all the retail business are doing the same thing. They're saying if you're vaccinated or not, doesn't matter. Wear masks,
Yeah.
because we have to do our best part to not share the droplets, not share it to, hopefully protect ourselves so we can continue to stay open as employees.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, all the best, obviously, out there in Vegas, and keep up the great work. It's a lot of fun. Again, go to Poker News's Twitch page, twitch.tv, and then go to Poker News. You can watch all the final tables. If you follow them, they'll send you'll get notified when they're online, so you don't have to keep going back and forth. And then, of course, stay tuned in August. GG Poker will be having theirs. They have it a little bit differently, where they actually have a day 2, and it's a set time. So you'll be able to know when that is. But Jesse, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Great to have my listeners get to know you a little bit better, and look forward to, I guess, seeing you in a couple months, which is a little bit crazy to think about.
Yeah, but hey, if anyone now has any questions about the World Series, besides KebMath, who's always the go-to, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Poker News or at pokernewsdot.com. And I'd love to help you out. We've got a great hub on pokernews.com as well regarding scheduling, how to play on a tight budget, what hotels we recommend. Poker News has put together a lot of great information and content for the World Series. And hopefully this is going to be a banner year, even despite all the situations. Hopefully we'll have a great turnout, and it'll be something to remember.
Awesome. Jesse Fullen here, head of social media for Poker News. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Stay tuned as we're going to continue our interviews. We're going to give you interviews of some of the bracelet winners that we had this year. We're trying to get some other people to talk about the world of poker as it's going on, and all leading up to the WSOP 2021. So stay tuned for all of that. And as always, may you always go in with the best hand, and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody.